Campus Comics Cast, coming to you from Carbondale, Illinois, with special guests from the Campus Comics crew. And now, here's your host, the man with the previews in hand, Mike No.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Campus Comics Cast, the kind where we don't talk about the previews catalog. We're going to touch on a few varied topics and our feelings on them, and we're glad to have you listen to us. And I'm Mike No, owner-operator here at Campus Comics on Main Street in Carbondale. We're coming to you, as always, from inside the store, and joining me for this episode are
Scott Reed
and Dan Brown.
All right. So, again, like I said, we are just going to talk about a few different topics here, and we're going to go ahead and jump in on this one. I know what we're going to be talking about is Scott had scored, like, the early viewing tickets to Aquaman.
Well, anybody who had Amazon Prime could get him,
right,
so it's not that big of a deal.
Right. But he had offered and asked if anybody wanted to join him to go see it that week early of the Amazon Prime showing, so he ended up using all the tickets you can get, right? Yep. So 10 tickets. So we had a pretty good group of us there to watch
Took up a whole row.
Yes, we did. And so to say that the feelings of this movie are mixed, I think, is an understatement because, well, let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. I know for me, it was rough, just to say that for me. I don't know what it was. I've never really been exasperated watching one of the superhero movies since these have all started, in earnest. But for some reason, I don't know, it was my state of mind. I don't know what, but it just really hit me wrong pretty much on every level as I was watching it. And I don't know. I know Dan has the most positive feeling. The three of us here.
Yeah. I liked it. I like this movie.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's not a perfect movie. Mm-hmm. None of these have been. There are issues with it, but I don't think it's like a waste of time or garbage or anything like that. I think Scott maybe feels a little more strongly about it. But
as far as I'm concerned, like up until this point, probably out of all the the more recent Marvel DC movies, I kind of put Suicide Squad down at the bottom of the pile, and this is in the running with Suicide Squad to be the worst out of all of the superhero movies. I think I'd rather watch like Iron Man 2 or the Ang Lee Hulk again before I ever were to watch this movie again.
And I'll say I have watched all those movies multiple times. I will watch Aquaman again.
And I will too.
I will watch it again because I just have to see if it hits me that way again. Like I told Scott before we came and started recording this podcast is a lot of times I will enjoy something more when I know what to expect. You know what I mean? And it's just like, okay, I know how this movie is going to be. Can I cut it more slack now? Can I just kind of relax and understand what it's going to be and watch it? But I don't know. I mean, I've never really had an experience with one of these movies where people are like, oh, did you see it? Yeah, what'd you think? And I would talk about it, and as I'd talk about it, I'd find myself actually getting mad. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. It's just a movie, Mike, but I don't know. It just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I was actually feeling like I was, maybe impacting other people's experience around me because I know I was saying, oh my God, doing something that happened. I'd roll the eyes. I'm like, I know I was audibly groaning and stuff like that. And it just, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know that I actually laughed at any point in this movie. And there were multiple scenes, and that's one of my gripes about this, and we'll talk more about that later on, but I groaned way more than I laughed. It was just so predictable.
Oh yeah. Right.
And it to me was like just a cheap knockoff of National Treasure added, thrown in with Thor Ragnarok. Let's put that out there, and that's our movie plot. And we were literally, I had brought over my portable recorder. I thought, it'd be great. We'll get out of this movie. We're going to record a podcast immediately after the movie, and and we got a group of 10 people. We'll get lots of people's thoughts on this. We can talk it up, get that posted up, and not a person liked this movie well enough to even sit there and talk about it afterwards. It's like, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Well, I kind of feel bad because I know Tyler's brother Trenton.
Right.
Right after it was over, because I had taken a bathroom break just to kind of
Go to the bathroom.
get a bathroom and get away from it for a second. And then whenever I came back, instead of crawling over 4 people, I just sat in the row in front of us because it was empty. And whenever the lights, whenever it rolled, the lights came up, I heard Trenton say he loved it. It's his favorite, best DC movie yet. Wow. So I think there was just, whenever we reacted so strongly, I think it discouraged anybody that liked it from saying anything. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it didn't want to get ugly. So everybody's just kind of like, oh, I don't want to be that guy.
And for the record, I would have been on board for recording right then, but I was so tired. Yeah. We had put in a day at the store and then gone over, and I had to get home and let my dog out.
Oh, yeah.
And other things, but...
Right.
But we were standing out in the lobby, and I come out, and here I was jacked. We had these early tickets, and I was really looking forward to this movie. And I actually apologized to everybody. It's like, I am sorry that I invited you to see this thing,
right?
Because I thought it was a complete and total train wreck.
Right.
I mean, this isn't Batman and Robin, though. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, and this is the issue they're going to have with all these movies now. Is there's such a negative, stigma to all these DC films now, that they've got to get over that hump, and they haven't done it.
Right.
And I'm so different on the DC movies than most people. Like, we're at 6 DC movies now. I really like the first 3, and I don't care for the more recent 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know the order exactly. Justice League it was after Wonder Woman. Well, no, there's 6.
Before Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so you got Man of Steel, Justice League, Batman v Superman. Right. Aquaman, Suicide Squad, and did I already say Justice League?
Yeah.
Did I say Wonder Woman?
I don't know.
Yeah, I had them written down. I got them written down somewhere.
Anyway, it's Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Aquaman.
Yeah, so there's 6 of them. Yeah, so there's 6 of them. And this is, I like Man of Steel, I like Batman v Superman, I like Wonder Woman a lot. The other Justice League, I don't care so much for, and Suicide Squad and Aquaman, I think are awful. So
I feel like it was a good movie. It needed to be a great movie is the problem. And that's kind of what they're running into now, because Marvel is hitting it out of the park with their films, and people are used to that now. They're expecting these movies to be a certain caliber.
We didn't go in there.
No,
I didn't go in there expecting to hate it. I'm like Scott. I'm not a hater of the DC movies like everybody wants us. I went in pretty open-minded. I really have no history with the character. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm this avid Aquaman fan, and I know every minutia of his history, which is kind of muddled anyway. But I was totally open-minded and expecting to like it. I mean, with the whole underwater theme and everything else, we're going to see something different. And boy, was it different, but just not what I was different in the way I was expecting it to be.
And one of the crazy things is, like, I felt, I thought this movie was so bad that I went online and I was like warning people about this. Like, this is, Suicide Squad bad. This is, don't go in with high expectations if you're going to see this. I'm going to go see all these superhero movies.
Right.
I think the only of, like, the major superhero movies in, like, the last 10, 15 years that I didn't go see, like, that night before it opens was, like, Amazing Spider-Man 2. I mean, beyond that, I go see all of them that opening night.
Early as you can.
And this one, I'll do that. I'll continue to do that. But this one was just so disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just it wasn't the telling of the story. I don't know. I just felt like it was a bad movie. You know what I mean? It felt really disjointed. It felt really. I don't know. The only thing that was the tone was consistent, but it was consistently goofy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy or something. It's too jokey. And I think the issue with
the jokes missed.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is I don't know if the cast can pull off what they were trying to do. I think I don't need Jason Momoa as Surfer Bro Aquaman. I feel more confident now in my choice of Charlie Hunnam as Aquaman that we didn't get. Yeah. I don't.
I would have minded Patrick Wilson, who played Orm. Yeah. I think he would have been a pretty good Aquaman. He would have been better than Momoa. I mean,
I like him. I like Patrick Wilson. I've liked him in what I've seen, but he never amazes me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's
that's
like a
that's the
workhorse
thing. Yeah. Like, I'm fine that he's in there. I like him as Ocean Master. I don't know if I need him as a lead.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know if he could have carried the movie like
that. I would have taken him over what we got.
Yeah. And he wasn't even what bothered me, and even that portrayal of Aquaman.
And again, who thought we'd get an Ocean Master, let alone a Black Manta that looked that close to the comics?
Yeah,
you know.
But that's really where it ended for me. I mean, I thought Amber Heard as Mira just absolutely phoned it in. I thought she
didn't bring anything to this.
Yeah, she brought nothing. I just thought the plot was disjointed. I thought the CGI was subpar and overused. I mean,
it's an underwater story. There's got to be CG.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. But did the scenes of Tom Curry walking to end of the dock have to be CGI?
No.
You know, I mean, it's just like I never felt like I was in a real world.
Yeah. DC does that. Like even in Justice League, there was a lot of stuff in Justice League that was filmed on green screen.
Well, Justice League is its own problem.
But I'm just saying DC has a tend to overuse CGI. But that doesn't bother me. I'll complain about CGI in movies, but there's just no story to this movie.
Right.
Is what it boiled down to me.
What I'm saying is, like, whenever Bruce is going to find Aquaman and whatever, was it BVS or was it Justice League when he's rounding up the league? I mean, they had those beautiful shots of what was actually scenery of obviously in Alaska or the Pacific, Pacific Northwest, all these things. And what we got is him walking down to the end of this fake dock with a green screen sunset behind him. Could we have not grounded that and make you feel like this is
the actual world?
And just like he said, the bad jokes, overuse CGI, I don't know.
Back to the CGI for a second. Yeah. On the DC Universe app on their DC Daily Show, of course, they've been promoting the Aquaman movie leading up to it. So James Wan directed. I'm not sure which one, but one of the Fast and Furious movies, one of the more recent ones. More effect shots in Fast and Furious than in Aquaman.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, go figure.
So that's his thing.
Well, apparently, just like that's probably what the studio, the story demanded for that. But again, it's real people in cars as opposed to fish people underwater.
Right, yeah.
There's just something going on. I think this is across all movies. Is like, Game of Thrones on HBO has been so successful. So a lot of people are attributing, it must be something to do with the actors. So they keep putting all these actors, Jason Momoa, Emilia Clarke, they've been getting these major roles, and none of them really are particularly good actors.
And this is where the guy that played Iron Fist comes from too, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
He was on there, right? I don't watch Game of Thrones.
So Finn Jones as well. Thank you for another train wreck. So just so we're not solely bashing on people, I said I posted on Facebook that I didn't like this movie, and I had people tell me, "Oh, you're just a DC basher." It's like no. So it's just like one of the things. It's like there's Marvel's put out some, been involved with some garbage or some subpar stuff as well. But Momoa is just apparently one of those guys. He's kind of like Chris Pratt. He plays the same character no matter what movie he's in. And I didn't refer to him as Surfer Bro Aquaman. I like to call him Point Break Aquaman.
Right.
I just don't care for that characterization of Aquaman.
Even when he came into his own, he just never was kingly. He was always dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have the arc that character needs for the story.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I saw posted on Facebook where people were commenting, and primarily females, I don't care about the movie. I just want to see Jason Momoa.
Yeah. I heard that a lot at my day job.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are liking that just because he's in it, and it's like he was a major detriment to this movie as far as I was concerned. I think we mentioned before, like the plot. It's like, okay, big gladiator scene fight. Okay, brief origin, gladiator scene fight, a la Thor Ragnarok, National Treasure search, back to another gladiator fight, a la Thor Ragnarok. It's just there was just nothing.
And back to the Thor, there was nothing original.
Back to the Thor Ragnarok thing, there are some designs of the sets that look like they're out of a Thor movie.
Oh yeah,
that's not just hyperbole on Scott's part. There is some design that I feel is really questionable. That someone should have said, "Hey, hold up, that looks too much like what Marvel's doing. Let's do something different."
Atlantis had a bridge to it.
Yeah. When did that happen?
Right. What? And why?
Yeah. Oh, a colorful bridge at that. Where have I seen that before?
It's just like wow, and it just seemed like that there was just so much regurgitation of so many scenes that we've seen in other things that you can look at any part of that movie and say, oh, that's this. Oh, that's this. It's like finding his mother down in the depths. It was like finding Janet down in the quantum realm. That opening scene where Atlanta was fighting the warriors that came back to get her. That was Wonder Woman fight in the museum. So the way she's sliding across, it's just everything was a bad recreation of another scene that's already been done in a better movie.
Yep.
To me, and it just
and again, a lot of the jokes fell flat. They were, constant. I wrote a list of silly things that I thought were in this movie, and like I feel like I had to go watch it again because I only wrote down like 8 or 9, or actually I got 7 things. Okay, and I don't want to go see this movie again in the theater to increase the length of this list. 'Cause I know there's a whole lot more, but like okay, so Aquaman's mother, Nicole Kidman, she wakes up after coming ashore and immediately she sees a fish tank and eats the fish out of it. Like that was and like she's looking her eyes around. It's like she's doing something wrong. It was just stupid. It's okay. My quote is sharks with frickin' lasers. I mean, really.
It almost has to feel like that's intentional.
Yeah, I was gonna be disappointed if there weren't sharks with lasers in this movie.
Okay, and an octopus that's playing the drums.
Yeah.
Really? It's like that's so dumb. Okay,
is that not a character in the book? So one of the super pets isn't not
was
an
it Topo or something like that?
That I don't know.
There's something there.
Okay.
I can't think of the character's name.
All right, then I'll give that a pass.
Before my time.
I'll give that a pass then on that one. Okay, Mike already mentioned when did Atlantis get a bridge?
Yeah.
Speaking of the laser, the cannon system on the walls, we know that's going to come into play later on in a very obvious way. All right, literal toilet humor.
Oh yeah.
All right. So you have this.
I could have done with that.
Yeah, you have this ultra powerful, Atlantean warrior, and he gets his helmet smashed. He doesn't have any water, so what does he do? Crams his face down a toilet. All right, so literal toilet joke. Right. Okay, Aquaman in the desert. That's just a groaner, for me as well. And then this is real kingly whenever they need water, and Aquaman offers to urinate on something. Yeah. That's just this is not the way Aquaman should be portrayed. Right. I mean, he, like you mentioned, Mike, he's supposed to be a kingly character.
Right.
And there's just none of that. Yeah.
And the thing is, too, to a degree, I'm fine with this if we would have got that at the end. If you would have seen a character arc with his development, where he starts off that way, but then he, gets more serious,
and I haven't even talked about some of the the terrible plot points. Like the obvious, the fake surface world attack on their meeting. That was just a terrible plot point. Right. I mean, a way to to have this whole thing kick off. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
More Dolph Lundgren than I thought there'd be in the movie, though. Yeah, so there is that.
I didn't know there was going to be any Dolph Lundgren. So I was surprised. I was like, is that Dolph Lundgren?
Yeah.
It's like, that really surprised me. When Willem Dafoe is training the young one, and he does the whole trick with the spear and spinning the water, and then we never see, and then we never see that again until the big fight at the end. Guess what's coming here?
Right.
Yeah,
indefensible
crane kick. There we go. Let's see. I don't know. I've got some other notes here, but I don't know what else to say about it. So it was just not good.
Yeah. To me, and I know they're like, shout out to Atchison, Mike Atchitak, that's done. He absolutely loved it, and no more. Good on you. I'm glad you did. I mean, Michael White, a customer that comes in, Aquaman's his character. I told him how I felt. He's like, oh man, and he came back, and I don't know if maybe I had just decimated their expectations at that point, and then, but he's just like, I actually liked it more than I thought I would. Well, I'm glad you do, but man, it did not work for me.
I mean, I love seeing some of these characters in the movie. We've got the Trench. I thought that was a really cool portrayal of them. I feel like they were, a threat. I mean, of course, it's the army thing.
Sure.
That, they're going to tear through eventually, but I really like that kind of version of them.
Yeah.
To me, that part was kind of silly because, like, you have all this whole race of creatures that just sit in these crevices and wait for somebody to come through. That's all they do with their entire life. It's like, come on. No.
And I think, too, I think it was just exhausting and overstuffed and too long.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, part of that though too, I think, is they established the whole 7 kingdoms thing, and then it's like you're obligated though to show all 7 of these.
Right.
So I think when you go down that road, that's kind of what you end up with.
Right.
But like again, the Brine King who's in there. That's some cool characters from the book. The one I was really disappointed in was Merc, who is a really cool character in the book, but he's the guy who puts his head in the toilet for no reason, and it's like, that is completely not that character. I'm not sure why they even called him that. It was a character I was really hoping was going to be in the movie, and they just ruined.
Goodness.
So
all right. So I think you get the gist, but Anyway,
So, rating?
Oh, yeah.
What is 1.0 is like a poor? Is that poor 1.0? I mean, it's just my wife could she literally could feel the disappointment exuding off of me whenever I came home. I made a comment about this and she posted online. She said, "I have never seen Scott Reed so disappointed in a movie before." So it's just like. Yeah, so I got to go like a 1.0, which is fair, I guess. It's just, and that makes it sound better than it actually is.
I'd probably give it like a G, maybe a G minus, just because, I don't know. For some reason, I took the break, came back in, sat down the row front. It was, I enjoyed it a little bit more. I got to say, that's why I want to rewatch it, because we saw it at a theater that's not the comfortable seating, and we were packed in there.
Yeah, we were in there pretty tight.
We were packed in there tight. And Tyler, I love you, buddy, but I don't want to rub thighs with you for 2 hours. You know what I mean? So it's just like I was just sitting there. I was uncomfortable. You know what I mean? On top of that, this movie's going on, and I just can't even physically be comfortable. You know what I mean? So it's just like, so I kind of want to watch it again and see that. So I'll cut it a little bit of slack, because for some reason after I came back, I enjoyed it marginally more.
But even while that movie was going on, like most of the time, when you're watching a movie, if there's a scene that's funny, the general crowd will laugh, or you'll get some type. Nobody was reacting at all during this movie. I mean, it was just there, and there was there wasn't a lot of people at the show. There was probably 30 or 40 people there, so obviously it was a special showing, so it wasn't sold out, but even the audience that was there just didn't seem super jacked about it.
So I'm going to give it a fine on this.
Right.
I'll buy this when it comes out. I'll watch it.
I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's what's bad. That's how stupid I am. Because I'm actually going to buy this train wreck on 4K whenever it comes out.
And the other thing is, too, as of now, as we're recording this is only behind Batman versus Superman as far as money makers for the DCU.
Wow,
this has surpassed Wonder Woman at this point.
Wow.
And when I saw that the other day, it still hadn't opened in Japan and Italy, I think.
Right.
They got a lot of early numbers because it opened in China basically right off the bat.
Yeah.
So that really upped its numbers.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays into any kind of sequel or what the future plans are for the DC movies in general.
It's downhill for me if this is the Aquaman we're going to get for the rest of it. So
Goodness. So anyway, so there's that. So leaping right off to that, we'll go into our next topic here. Were you done, Dan? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. Okay, all right. Yeah, but I'm glad you liked it. I will say I'm glad you did.
Scott is not.
Yeah, Scott
I'm embarrassed on Dan's behalf that he liked that movie. So.
Oh, goodness. But anyway, so springboarding off of that, we're going to go into our next topic, which is a little bit more broad and a little bit more general, and I think maybe plays into my feelings about Aquaman itself, is basically the state of the superhero movie genre in general. When we brought up this topic, are you thinking of like where we're at now, where we need to go, what it needs to, or just kind of where it's at?
I'd probably just where it's at is kind of what I was thinking along the lines of is what we're, what I think we're gonna get versus what I hope we get. The way that I look at it right now is we're all comic collectors and comic book fans, and they are no longer making these movies for us.
Sure.
No.
I mean, and you can probably argue, initially that all these movies were being made just for the general public because the comic book buying community is actually relatively small. Now we know that the TV shows and cartoons and stuff have generally been popular, and there's a lot of nostalgia for that. But I honestly think that if Marvel had not initially said they had that those phase plans, that we would be getting this, and I'm gonna keep talking about Aquaman, even through this portion. If Marvel had not had that initial long range plan that they had, I think we would be getting similar garbage from Marvel like what we got from DC with the Aquaman and Suicide Squad movies.
Yeah, part of DC's big problem is they don't have somebody spearheading all this like Kevin Feige does at Marvel. That's one of the big problems they have.
The singular vision to kind of focus everybody and keep them on track.
And again, at Detective 651, if they want that, just reach out. I'm more than happy to help steer the ship.
So I think to me, and I'm going to blame the Deadpool movies for a lot of what's wrong with the other Marvel and DC movies. Now, Deadpool is probably my second least favorite comic book character. All right, but, just behind the Sentry. Right, we've talked about that before. All right, and heaven forbid if they ever make a movie of that character. But anyway, but in the movies, the Deadpool movies are terrific. Both of them, 1 and 2, but the character is a parody of himself. He's a parody of a superhero movie.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but because of the success of those movies. That and also the surprise success of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
In my mind, that has tainted all the movies that have come after that.
Oh, I agree.
When we had Iron Man, there was some humor associated with Iron Man, but it was because Tony Stark was a smart aleck. Right? There was a little bit of humor associated with Captain America. Well, that's because he was a character that was out of time, right? So he just didn't know what was going on with him. Guardians of the Galaxy, that was just unexpected. Nobody really thought anything about that.
Nobody thought they'd do a good Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Right? Yeah, I was like, even with the newer character versions as well, it's like that was just such a surprise.
Yeah.
But now all of these films think that they have to have a lot of humor in it, and Thor Ragnarok is another movie that I did not care a whole lot
for it either.
For
that reason.
And it was constant jokes that just fell flat. I think the person that I best heard describe that was Matthew Miller. Whenever he was talking about Thor Ragnarok, he said there was no sense of peril in that movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Asgard is being destroyed.
But it's a yuck fest.
Yeah, exactly. And they're laughing it up the entire time. So Aquaman, same thing. They're trying to throw in these jokes, and we're basically getting comedy action films as opposed to action films.
And so you say it's interesting. You say that when you talked about Deadpool being a parody of himself, and that's kind of how I felt about Aquaman. Is it's almost like it's a parody of superhero movies because it's that whole thing. Again, it's a divisive movie, a divisive show that's linked to the genre. Love it or hate it. No, Dan hates it. I know I'm fine with it. I know Dan likes his Big Bang Theory. People hate that show. Why? Because I feel like they're laughing at me and not with me.
Right.
I felt that way with Aquaman. I really felt like these movies, they are just reinforcing the fact these movies are goofy and stupid. You know what I mean? And it's just like, they're superhero movies. They're just silly. And I really felt like Aquaman kind of bolstered that whole thing.
Can you imagine? I don't know if I probably shouldn't go here, but I'm going to go here. Can you imagine the outcry if they had done a pseudo comedy with Black Panther?
Oh, right.
What would have been said about that? I mean, it's just I'm so thankful that they gave that movie. They made a serious movie with that. I mean, there were lighthearted moments, but it wasn't as forced, and we're getting so much forced humor, in all these things. So,
Dan, you're oddly quiet entering this.
I don't want to start talking about Big Bang Theory on here.
No,
because that'll take a turn.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'll get ugly.
So,
I understand it.
I'm ready for that show to be over
I'm
as
just
well.
making that.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
And Mike, I'm kind of letting Mike speak for me here, but I hate that show. That's all I want to say about that.
Right.
We'll be here all night. It will end badly. But and when these movies came out, I knew Guardians of the Galaxy was going to lead to bad things. I think maybe Bleeding Cool or some website predicted that with Deadpool if it was a success because it changes so much. And you have all these writers who maybe they don't understand superhero movies, but they know comedies. You know what I mean? And so, the trend will shift that way. I'm surprised we still haven't gotten way more R-rated superhero movies with the success of Deadpool, and we do have the PG-13 version that was with 2.
Deadpool. I think we had Logan, right? I mean, Logan was the one exception.
So
Yeah, so that was R-rated, right?
Yeah. But I figure there would be several more by now. With the success of Deadpool.
What is it about? Well, of course, DC has the same problem. Like whenever whenever New 52 was going on, what they were saying, we're not writing comic books for high schoolers or young kids anymore. They're for guys who are 40 or 40 years old.
Right.
that's not necessarily should be your target audience for these movies. And what made Deadpool good was not that it had a bunch of F-bombs in it. That's not why Deadpool was successful. It was because it was a parody of itself, and it had good humor. The opening sequence of the first Deadpool movie, where he's going through the car, and it is hilarious. And there's not a single profanity in that 4 or 5 minute sequence, and it's just funny because it's well written.
Yeah, but when has Hollywood not learned its lesson? When do they attribute success to the wrong thing? That's what I think the prediction was what Deadpool would lead to. And again, it's also the thing of like, that's pretty much for anything. Grand Theft Auto video games, those are mature games, but they have good stories. That's why they persist and are so successful. It's not necessarily just that they're mature, but that is a factor of it. And so you have people who assume, it's got to be edgy, it's got to be mature and R.
Well, to make it quote unquote mature, we've got to have a bunch of F-bombs.
Exactly.
And that's not what actually makes a mature.
That actually makes it quite immature.
Immature, exactly. So. I just, Logan's, I think, suffered for that. I still thought Logan was a pretty good movie, but I thought that was unnecessary. I'm fine with the over-the-top violence in that.
I feel like we were overdue for a Wolverine movie with blood in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the
but
thing.
to see the professor, you know what I mean? Kind of you understand his whole arc and things like that.
That was kind of a future thing. They're kind of wrapping it up. I actually liked Logan.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
But I just thought that some of the stuff was unnecessary. The language I thought was the only thing that was unnecessary. So I was fine with basically all the rest of it. And the girl who played X-23 was incredible.
And I'm surprised we haven't gotten a spin-off with her yet.
Yeah. But again, it just boils down to they're not going to make these movies for comic book fans anymore.
Well, that's just the economics of it.
Oh yeah.
Because here's the thing. So
they're not going to make $500 million on comic book fans.
And the thing is too, it's like, okay, say the top selling comic sells 100,000 copies. It doesn't. Let's say it is. Let's say 100,000 people. So now 100,000 people are going to go to a movie and spend $10 on a movie ticket. It's $1 million. That's not the budget of these $100 million,
that's not
billion
what some of these
movies.
actors are even being paid.
Exactly. So it's like the economics of it are they cannot just pander to comic readers, and they know that.
But I felt like initially with they were writing, they were giving us stories that were really, really directly or at least loosely tied to something that we had seen in the comics, and they were giving us comic book versions of the character. We were getting the version of Captain America we got, the version of Iron Man we got. Those...
Well, again, that's Marvel. That's the MCU. That's Marvel Studios coming in, having that background of they, wanting to steer closer to their material.
But even Man of Steel, Superman, Batman and Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman and Batman v
But again, I feel like this is all the shift from Marvel. Post-Marvel we've gotten that. Post-Marvel Studios.
Yeah, so now we're seeing that decline, and I think a lot of the movies are going to decline. And if, like I said, we talked about this before, but if there hadn't been that long range plan, I don't think we would have had Infinity War the way that it was. It would have been a yuck fest as well. Whatever it ended up being, and they would have turned Thanos into a parody of himself instead of something fairly close to what we got out of the.
So here's the thing, though. Marvel's had this long term plan that's about to wrap up. And of course, they have another phase. What do they build to after Infinity War or after Endgame?
Well, I know what I think they're going to build towards, but that's neither here nor there. So.
Right, but do you think they maintain the momentum after that?
Their dollar amounts are going to have to decline when they lose their big three, and really the big two, as far as I'm concerned, Christopher Evans and Robert Downey Jr. Chris Hemsworth, he could have gone away a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned. When they lose those two guys, the people are going to care a little bit less. Because Ant-Man and Wasp, I really like that movie. I'm ready for another Black Panther movie. I'm up for another Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But they're not gonna be billion-dollar films. Of course, and even like Winter Soldier, which is my favorite one, it's not a billion-dollar movie. I don't know what its final gross was, but we're just not going to see that. We're not going to see that anymore. And it's one of the things that Marvel's done right with their movies. I think I've mentioned this before, but you can go look at all the Marvel movies, and Winter Soldier was successful because it's a actually an espionage spy movie.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Ant-Man was a heist movie.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and Wasp was a chase movie. You know,
Right.
they just take, you know, well-known types of films and they just put Marvel, you know, characters into them, whereas DC just hasn't quite, you know, they're just saying, oh, what can we do to make these, you know, characters pop
right.
on the screen?
And Marvel's always, like you were saying, they've stayed quite a bit closer to the source material and everything, you know, especially with the characterizations of them. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really say that about Tony Stark because Downey created that persona for Tony Stark.
Yeah, that's the thing. Marvel
You know?
has added a lot to these characters in these movies.
Now,
These
Chris
characters,
Evans was
these
just
characters are
Steve
way
Rogers off the
these
page.
characters are way more captivating in the movies than they are in these books.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Well, and we wouldn't have any of these movies if it wasn't for Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, he is what brought that character to life.
Well, I'll throw John Favreau in there too.
Okay,
as the director.
yes,
He brought a lot
yes.
to that too, and
Yeah.
he doesn't get enough credit for
He
helping
does
you
with
are
this.
you are correct.
Yeah.
You are correct.
But whereas, I don't know. I mean, whereas, and I know we've talked about it before too. You know, at least it seems like Marvel captures the essence of their characters.
Yeah.
Whereas DC just kind of like, I'm going to throw this against the wall and see if it sticks. You know, it's just like, I mean, I think Thor has varied the most. You know, he's more, I think, as Matt Martin, he's more like Marvel Comics Hercules. He's like the dude bro of Marvel Comics, you know, and I'm of the Marvel MCU.
And he is the character that I think has declined the most on the Marvel side. I mean, you had the first Thor movie directed by Kenneth Branagh. It was a Shakespearean.
Yes.
We talked about where they classify. It's a Shakespearean classic. And then you end up with, you know, Anthony Hopkins as playing Loki, playing himself, and just it becomes a mockery. Yeah, it becomes a mockery.
Yeah,
and
you know, and then Peter Parker. I mean, Tom Holland's Peter Parker is perfect Spider-Man. He's spot on for that character. But then when you go to the DC universe, the side. Really, the Flash doesn't even know which direction Metropolis is going to. You know, Aquaman.
Here's another prediction. We're never getting that Flash movie. Let's not even pretend at this point. They keep pushing that back. It's Flashpoint, then it's not, then it is.
Yeah.
And DC's in a tough spot right now. Because apparently, and of course we still don't know this for sure, they've lost Cavill, they've lost Affleck. All right, so I always forget if it's Gadot or Godot. Gadot is great. All right, I mean, at least she has been the two times that we've seen her. Despite the fact that I can't stand him in the role, apparently everybody else loves Jason Momoa as Aquaman. You know, $750 million. Okay, so they're not throwing that away. So you've lost half of your cast.
Right.
Are you going to keep going? Are you going to reboot?
Yeah.
You know, what
and that's
can
the
you
thing.
do?
It's like they are doing another Wonder Woman movie. We're getting that next year.
2020. Oh, that's right. It is next year.
Next year,
That is
Scott.
next year. It's because it's 2019 now.
It's supposed to be this year.
It's supposed to be this year. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, they don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater here, but it's almost like they need to at a certain point. And eventually they will. That's the thing. You know, eventually this cycle will come to an end and they'll reboot these characters.
Yeah.
But it's going to take them at least 2 years to get another Aquaman movie ready. You know, it's like, are they going to just sit on this stuff for 2 years? I mean, Marvel's got how many movies coming out in that same time frame?
And again, it's back to the lack of leadership. And we keep saying DC, it's Warner Brothers.
Right, yeah.
You know, is the culprit here. But, and now we have a Joker movie coming out that's not tied into this world. And like, how does that not confuse audiences? You know, and you've got a Birds of Prey Harley Quinn movie coming out, you know.
Is that coming out as a film?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was just going to be on the DC app.
Yeah. Well, there's a Harley Quinn cartoon that's on there, but yeah, there's that Birds of Prey movie that's coming out.
Right.
With like Ewan McGregor as Black Mask apparently, and all this stuff.
They've been talking about that for a long time, though.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess another thing to point out, and this is going to kind of tie us into something else we're going to talk about, but and I'm not going to say that humor doesn't belong in these movies,
right?
I mean, because the same time frame where we're seeing Aquaman, we also had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, right? Which I thoroughly enjoyed. I was questionable going into that movie. I thought I don't know what I'm going to think about this. I really didn't. Like the idea of Peter Porker Spider-Ham in a Spider-Man movie.
Blasphemy.
Sorry. But I was wrong. I mean, okay, I was wrong. That was such an enjoyable, and it had a lot of humor in it, but it told such a great story. And it really felt a lot like some of the Dan Slott Spider-Man stuff. It was so much better, and it had a great Stan Lee cameo in it, and a nice little tribute at the end, and the funniest post-credit scene out of any of them, out of any of the movies. Maybe it was great. That movie was so good, and I actually posted this online. It's like, if you're thinking about seeing a superhero film when Aquaman opens up, go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you've already seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a second time instead of seeing Aquaman. But yeah, I mean, so it's not to say that comedy doesn't belong in these, but it's just got to be appropriate, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like appropriate as in language or anything, but to fit with the characters.
Find your tone
and not hurt the overall story arc, and you're not serving the jokes instead of the jokes serving the plot.
Like the best example of that for me is like in the Justice League film, where there's that one scene that was obviously added when Whedon came on. If you got Batman rolling around on the ground on his back, making some joke, it's like that's just not the character. It was after one of the early fights with Superman, so I
something's bleeding because that whole "do you bleed?"
So it was just that's not what we need. The writers need to be smarter about the jokes,
right?
And they're just let's anything, yuck, 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 let's go.
So, all right. Had your say, man?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. It's just like there's so much stuff up in the air.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. Especially right now, it's kind of a weird time because Marvel's wrapping up Phase 4, Phase 3. What phase are we on? I can't remember.
I can't even remember. Yeah, but
it used to be with Avengers movie. It seems like
well, it is. Yeah, it wraps up. Infinity War is the end. Endgame is going to be the end of one of the phases. Right. If it's either Phase 3 or Phase 4. Because they've got some stuff planned out for the next phase.
Right.
But those are obviously in Infinity War and Endgame are going to be the peaks.
Right.
For
this is what they've been building for since Avengers.
So it'll be interesting to see if Endgame exceeds Infinity War. But I mean that just makes it's all it does is delay the decline. It's at so you continued up till Endgame and then you started down, or are we starting down at Infinity War? That's the real question mark. So I don't know the answer to that. So
Okay, so did you guys?
I will say too, just on superhero movies in general, I feel like we have so much saturation from the big two,
right?
That there's probably some good indie movie comics that could be turned into cool superhero movies that we're probably not going to get, or if they did, they would get buried. And again, we've got Hellboy coming out, the Hellboy reboot coming out soon. We'll kind of see how that does.
Well, and don't forget that we get a lot of comic book movies that we don't think of as comic book movies. So like Road to Perdition was a comic book movie.
History of Violence.
History of Violence was The Road. Was that a?
That was just a bummer.
Okay. I guess I'm just because of Viggo Mortensen being in that. I think I'm just confusing that with some. But there's a lot of those, things like The Surrogates. And, there's been a lot of things that were comic book movies that they just
losers.
Yeah,
that was.
Yeah, so
Monkey Bone.
But yeah, it's at this year, there's almost a superhero movie every single month, and that might be too much.
Yeah. I think that's again, flashing back to my feelings about Aquaman. Is it just saturation? Is it just there's just too much? There's nothing new to see. You know what I mean? And it's just like at this point, I just feel like we're rehashing the same things over and over again.
I blame the writers. There are hundreds and hundreds of Aquaman stories that they could have pulled a better story out of, than what they gave us on the screen. So. And as long as they, choose the nature of the character or choose good stories to base off of them, I think these movies can continue to be successful. But if they just give us more, let's see how funny we can make it. It's gonna rapidly decline.
So. Gotcha. All right. So, do you guys have anything else you wanted to say about Spider-Verse?
It was a good movie. Go see it. Spider-Ham.
And he was great. He was good.
Yeah, John Mulaney as Spider-Ham. Spider-Man Noir, I didn't realize who that was.
Nicholas Cage. He got to play Superman and Spider-Man in the same year.
Yeah, crazy. Really liked it. Again, a CG cartoon that doesn't look like everything else that's out there. I really appreciated that.
I had somebody, I posted how much I liked that, and somebody they didn't like the animation because they thought it was too jerky. I'm like,
slap them in their face.
but they liked Aquaman too. It's like, really, you complained about
yeah.
the CG and Spider-Verse, but you like the CG in Aquaman?
There were a couple times in Spider-Verse where they were doing the sort of halftone printed look that it looked a little odd, and it looked like somebody who was with us asked, was this supposed to be the 3D one? Where it did look a little odd when you're seeing it with the action and stuff, and so it did look like it was supposed to be like a 3D, like a typical red-blue 3D effect, in the theater. But again, that was just like a couple times in the movie when you're actually viewing it. But otherwise, a good time. Go see it.
Yes, absolutely.
They're doing a sequel, right? And I think they saw something where they're talking about doing some TV series of some of the characters or something like that. I just saw a headline today talking about that. I didn't read the article yet. But so definitely going to, more Spider-Verse stuff coming, it looks like.
Gotcha. So if you guys were to rate that, I didn't see Spider-Verse,
I'd go near mint with it. It's a strong movie.
Yeah, I'd say I'd go at least very fine and maybe a little bit higher. I have to. I'm trying to remember where I've ranked other things. So I it's not Winter Soldier for me, but it's but it's really really good. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think with that being said, we're gonna wrap this episode up. I think with actually talking about a comic book. Yeah, it's crazy talk, right? So, of course, within the last several months, everybody knows that. I guess most people in the field of comics are involved with them or fans know that Marvel has gotten the Conan the Barbarian license or property back. So of course they're been doing a lot of reprinting. We were talking about it in our previous podcast of previews about some of the stuff that they're doing. But they did launch, and the first of their Conan reboots is Conan the Barbarian #1, written by Jason Aaron, and art. Dan, who is art here?
I'll let you say it.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
Azra.
Okay.
That's what I would guess.
Azra and Matthew Wilson. Okay. But anyway, so it's the first issue. And weren't you saying something that Jason Aaron, was that you saying something about him saying if Marvel thinks anybody else?
Yeah. When the news came out that Marvel was getting Conan back, he posted a picture online of his bookshelf littered with Conan paperbacks.
Oh, wow, okay.
Saying if they thought someone else was going to write this book, they were wrong. So, yeah, Jason Aaron is a good fit. I mean, when they announced that he was the writer, I'm like, okay, I'm going to check out this first issue at least.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because he wrote your Thor, right?
Yes, the Thor run that led into the Jane Foster Thor, that was all Jason Aaron. So yeah, and he takes a storytelling way of telling the story into this issue of Conan that he used actually first. Well, that I'm aware of first in Thor.
Oh, okay.
The past story and the future story.
Right.
In Thor, he actually did a past story, a present story, and a future story all in the same issue, and it actually was like a 6-issue arc, or maybe even a little bit longer than that. So he kind of carries that into Conan, but I liked it here.
Yeah, totally. It totally works with his character. And again, before we get into it, cover Izad Ribic, who's also been he did some Thor stuff. He did some
Thor stuff as well with Jason Aaron.
He's been doing the Fantastic Four covers. I'm not crazy about those. Perfect for Conan.
Well, I like this cover a lot, except Conan's face just looks weird to me on the regular cover.
Look at some of those old Frazetta paintings.
Okay,
his face looks pretty weird on some of those too.
Okay, all right.
So I'm not going to fault him for that.
No, but otherwise it's a trick. And I also like they have legacy number 276 on this, so you can just put this right after Conan 275 from your previous collection.
We're going to get Conan 300 then.
We are.
I'm glad that they're finally doing this though. You can keep putting
nice.
the number ones on there, but keep the
keep
legacy numbers on there. That just helps us so much. So.
Yeah, it does indeed.
I like this little first 3 pages where you kind of got this cinematic intro, and
almost like a scroll.
I was a little irked they didn't credit everybody here.
Well, that's why I actually had that down as a comment as well. So on page 2 and 3, we actually see a bunch of shots from the earlier Marvel. We got the Barry Windsor Smith cover number 1. Yeah, so there's now I'm assuming it now. I'm not a huge Conan reader. I haven't read a whole lot of Conan, but like there's a female character that is on this page several times, and at least 3 out of 4 times that I see this character, actually 4 out of 5, it looks like it's the same character to me. So I don't know who this character is. I initially thought it might be that
Belit?
Yeah, but no, it's not because this looks like a redheaded character. It's obviously not Red Sonja.
Correct.
But the costume is basically the same. So like here on the left hand side, upper right, it looks like it's the same character. The one he's holding on the horse, that looks more black haired there.
Yeah.
Bottom right on the second page, looks like the same character, same costume.
Conan just likes redheads, bro.
Maybe he just likes redheads.
Come on, man, that's all it is.
But so I'm assuming that is a character that we're going to see moving forward at some point in this, because she seems to be fairly prominently featured. Here. But I was like you. I was surprised they didn't quote or credit Barry Windsor.
They credit all these variant cover artists over here, so I feel like it could have put fine print or something.
Yeah, anything. And I didn't. I was looking for it as well, and I didn't see it anyplace either. Even because they didn't put the one the treasure room where Barry Windsor Smith wrote in real small. Right. You got to be crazy to crazy to work here. But so maybe that was a little bit of payback or something. I'm not for sure.
Yeah. So some Conan origin here going on.
Yeah, right. I was a little scared, So after you get those first few pages, okay, it's like, oh my gosh, splash page.
Yeah.
I was having Batman 50 flashback.
Yeah, I was getting kind of worried about that too. Yeah. I don't need an issue of splash pages.
But as I was going through them, it's like, well, I already like this better than I like Batman 50, so okay, I can accept that. But then we get about page 4 or 5, and okay, we're back to regular panels and stuff. Okay, so we're good. And I think I just forgotten. We saw a preview for this in one of the in one of the issues of preview, so I should have realized it's not going to be that way the entire book. But yeah, I was scared for a second they were going to, steal that from DC.
So we have a new villain here called the Crimson Witch.
Right.
You don't realize that she's a villain out of the gate.
Right.
A typical female Conan conquest.
Yeah, right.
Get a little, like I said, the origin, kind of see bookends right on the first couple of pages, see his birth on the battlefield, which is that, and then, flash forward to King Conan.
You felt like the movie. I was thinking Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, yeah.
I thought about
Conan
it.
There.
And they acted like they were going to do that when he quit being governor. There was talk of him coming back and doing a King Conan movie. Yeah. It's like, I kind of wish that would have happened.
Me too. Yeah. But, so there's that.
So, yeah.
And I'm with Scott. I'm not, a huge Conan fan. And I'm really not even a sword and sorcery / sword and sandals, that whole genre kind of fan. That's not really my thing. But I have, my whole comment would be just summed up on this book, it would be just like, I've read enough Conan to know this feels like Conan.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's a legit thing. You can feel Aaron's love for the character and his being true to the.
And I don't feel like you have to know Conan lore to appreciate this. It's definitely a first issue intro kind of thing.
You get it. You get enough from the just those splash pages and. Yeah, I love that Conan's first spoken word is Crom.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, yeah, he's got it.
This is him.
There was, so they do put a parental advisory on the front of this one, right? So there is quite a bit. There's quite a bit of blood in this. There is a lot. Well, the first few pages, there's a lot of innuendo as well.
Yeah.
The Red Witch is talking about that's not the rough stuff that you were expecting. That's not the gushing release that you were expecting.
Right.
So there's a lot of that going on. But I mean, that's part of the Conan. Really, probably more Savage Sword Conan than the Conan the Barbarian, where they didn't have quite the. They had to worry about the comics code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we kind of start to see the Crimson Witch's scheme here with Conan,
right?
And we get the prophecy, want to call, where she sees his death.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. There.
And then we after we get that kind of initial story with that witch, then it moves forward to because they talk about this being the story is the life and death of Conan. So what is it, part 1 of? I don't know if even say how many parts it is. I'm not even sure.
It's Marvel part 12.
Yeah.
Again, if it's this quality though, I'm fine with however many parts this is.
But then we get a flash forward, where it's later in his life and many years later. So I don't know how much you want to say before we get to that point.
Well, we got a lot of good Conan action. We got some beheadings going on. We got some swords and axes flying around. We got some blood.
We got some gladiator-style ring fighting and all that stuff.
We got a big pit. We got some fire.
Got some demons happening.
When I guess we should have said spoilers, right?
Yeah, whatever.
But that's a given.
If you got to this point in this episode.
It's too late, but I mean, it did kind of feel like the Conan movie to me a little bit, because even like the scene where the witch is pretty and then she's ugly.
Changes.
It's like, that's a little, but that's good. I mean,
it's been too long for me since I've seen those movies. I need to go back and watch them again sometime.
Got the skeleton, quite a while. Just all hits on all those things.
Oh, real quick too, forgot to point out at the beginning, they've got that map of Hyperborea, right? Kind of laying out the geography a little bit,
right?
So I thought that was kind of a neat thing on the title page.
Yep.
Or what was it?
Yeah, the very first.
Yeah, the first page.
Right. And then, so like I said, we get that flash forward scene, and again, this is what Jason Aaron used in those issues of Mighty Thor. So it works well here with Conan. I guess it's kind of like he can write the bookmarks of his story at the beginning, and then he can fill in the pages, with the rest of it as as long as the book's going to run.
Yeah.
So
back to that Future Thor real quick. I could have just read a book of Future Thor.
Oh yeah,
with that was such a good character. And like, was that his granddaughters or great granddaughter or whatever?
Whatever.
So and so then again, King Conan here finds these children, who start talking about similar things that the Crimson Witch brought up to him.
What did you just say?
Years later,
kind of thing. Yeah,
so that was really nice.
Yeah, and then, because he comes really close to lopping the Crimson Witch's head off.
Not quite. Almost sort of Pez dispensers,
I guess like that. And lots of gruesome stuff hanging out and everything like that. And she's kind of floating around, all broken, messed up looking.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that's what you're talking about. That style that he used, the way it just kind of comes full circle, with the years in between it, and how he ties everything together and really leaves it in a, quite the cliffhanger kind of thing.
Now, I was expecting, as thick as this book was, whenever it kind of ended, it's like, wait a minute, there should be a whole lot more going on. And so instead we get, it's almost like old school comics where you get several pages of prose, because they used to have to do that, for the cheaper mailing rates, right? They had to have a comic book too. Yeah. So now it's obviously, that's not why they did it here, but it kind of has
cool.
that feel.
Yeah.
And actually this story, Black Starlight Part 1, it's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it's
for 3 pages. Yeah,
for their $5 cover price.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me a book that I can't tear through in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, and it's going to be a 12-parter. So that's, it also points to Dan saying that this story arc may take 12 issues, right? Because that's how long this back is. So they're definitely going to do at least 12 issues of Conan the Barbarian before they renumber number 1.
Harper.
So but again, kind of just like a fun bonus thing there at the end,
Cool.
So really, and then heck, if you're a big Dungeons and Dragons player, you can adapt this to a module for yourself. So, because this basically is, you got a party of him and 3 other characters, and they're starting an adventure. So,
but again, I'm not a big Conan reader. I'm not even a big fan of this the genre so much, but I can say I'm looking forward to issue number 2. I am. I'm ready to read some more. I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, my background was really the movies when I was a kid, and then I read some the Dark Horse stuff for quite a while.
That was some really good stuff.
This is a great first issue. I'm definitely gonna pick up number 2, see where we're going with this.
For an original story, it just really super felt.
And it doesn't. And it's a first issue that's not decompressed.
Yeah,
there's stuff going on. We're setting
stuff
up
happening.
There's action.
It's not just a straight up adaptation of a Howard story, which we see a lot of, and they're all really quite good. Can be really quite good, but this feels very Conan to me. So I'm really happy with it. And I'd never realized before. Speaking of that, tie into Aquaman, Jason Momoa played Conan the Barbarian.
Nobody cares about that.
Let's forget about that.
I just wanted to bring that up because I know you're such a fan.
Right. Well, and that was so memorable that I had completely forgotten about him in that movie. So he's also in Stargate, and I'm not rushing out to watch those.
That either.
Okay, and that's just because I thought of it now. This is another one of the stupid things they did in Aquaman.
Flashback.
Okay, so in Game of Thrones, spoilers for Game of Thrones, right? Jason Momoa's character dies. He gets poisoned by a witch, basically. So what happens? Well, he's wounded, and this character basically brings this salve and leaves and stuff and puts it on a wound on his chest by his left arm, on the upper part of his chest by his left arm. And there's a scene in Aquaman where he pulls off something and he's got this seaweed compress basically in the exact same spot of where it came from Game of Thrones. And I'm like, that's another one of my
Do you feel like
moments.
they're intentionally referencing that?
I do.
It's just like an Easter egg kind of thing?
I think it is very deliberate, and it just made me groan. So, I mean, I've grown there almost as much as I've grown whenever Merc put his head in the toilet. I mean, it was just that was just another one of those groaner moments for me. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Back to Conan.
Yes,
it's a great book.
Yes. End on a high note.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I brought it up. But no, I am looking forward to the next issue of this, and it's going to make me pick up, the first issue comes out of Savage Sword, just to see how that holds up, when it comes
Who's the
out.
writer? Who's the writer going to be on Savage Sword?
I'm not sure.
Is it Dugan?
I don't know.
I think it's Jerry Dugan on that,
Dugan?
I think.
Okay.
I think there's an ad in the back here for it, isn't there?
Is it?
Yeah, and
Gotta be. Yeah.
well, there was one for I saw the
lit.
yeah.
Oh, well, maybe not.
Maybe
no, I
not,
guess it's
yeah.
the second issue.
Huh.
And then there's the collection. So, yeah, I thought there was, but there is not.
Yeah, the first issue of that's not out yet. So.
No.
Next
I
month,
want to
so.
say it was Jerry Dugan, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds right, now that you say that. But, as far as I'm going to rate this,
Yeah, so I'm going to go very fine on this. And like I said, I'm not a Conan fan, so that's actually pretty high praise coming from me. Jason Aaron really does a good job, and the art is great. And I actually really, really like the art as well. So.
Yeah, and he really captures the feeling of the old, Bashima / without just aping those guys to really capture that look and the broodingness of Conan and everything like that. I like it a lot. So I'd give it a very fine as well. And again, not the big Conan fan or anything else, or even of the genre, but I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of struggled with the rating on this. After I first read it, I wanted to say gem mint.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this is about as good as a comic can get.
Oh,
I'm going to go near mint with
Okay.
it, but I feel this is a really strong first issue. If you're a Conan fan, you have to pick this up. Don't even joke.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You definitely want to
Yeah.
get this.
I need to get this into Dennis's hands because he's a huge Conan fan. He loves Conan and the Howard stuff and all that.
Yeah,
He
this
loves
is
it.
this is a really good comic.
So, are you have any attachment to Conan at all? Or
Not
just
really.
The movies as a
Yeah,
kid?
and again,
Yeah.
I haven't seen those for years.
Right.
And the Dark Horse stuff was good.
Oh, yeah.
But I've
That's right.
never gone back and read the books or anything like that. Again, I'm not big into like fantasy and that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
But this is really good. This is a really strong first issue. I can't imagine. Jason Aaron's writing it. I can't imagine this being a bad run.
You make a really, really strong point there. Is like you could not really expect anything
Yeah,
else
what
out of
more
this
do you
book.
want?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, you couldn't have gotten much. I don't think you couldn't have gotten better writing. You couldn't have gotten better art.
Right.
I mean, it's. I mean, that's a real strong point. It's like if you don't like this, you just don't like Conan.
You don't like comics.
Or
Yeah,
comics,
If you don't like
yeah.
this, like
Exactly,
what more
'cause
can
it's
you
just
ask out of
a
an
well-done
issue?
comic.
Yeah.
And you get
Such variety of images.
style.
And,
Yeah.
it's sequential art. I mean, it literally
Yeah.
is sequential art.
and to
So-
take a character that's this old and so much has been done with that and tell everything you need to tell
for sure.
in these first three
Yeah.
pages to set up where you're at. That's just
Yeah.
amazing. Just so well done.
No.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, this is basically a blueprint for a first issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
And a character that has backstory that people have relation to. It's not something new, like a new character, a new setting and stuff. But it this
feels
is all-
fresh.
This is all you need.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Longtime fans should be super happy and jump
Yeah.
right on in issue 276, and new fans should
Right.
be able to jump on in issue 1.
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And if you got a hankering for some Conan, we got some of those old issues in the back room here at the store.
We do.
So come check them out.
Yeah. We got some of the Dark Horse stuff back there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I grabbed some of that. I think.
did
But I think there's still some.
Yeah,
back
that
there.
Kerry Nord art is really
Oh,
hard to
yeah.
beat, and that stuff is great. And those were a lot of adaptations,
Were they?
Tower of the Elephant,
Oh,
and
okay.
stuff like that. Those are all Howard stories, So yeah, good stuff. So, all right, will that do it?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, like I said, we'll do this for what is it? We episode 37.
37, I think. Yeah, I think we're up to episode 37.
37 of it. So
is there some significance to
We're not going to get into that.
okay. All right. Never mind.
If you're a Kevin Smith fan, you'll get it.
Okay.
We'll move on.
Gotcha.
Who's also writing in that Detective 1000.
Yeah, Detective 1000.
There we go.
Right.
Let's tie that back into something. All right.
So I guess that'll do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed listening along, and hope you got encouraged to check out Conan #1 of many things. Anything, anytime you want to join in on the conversation, just message us here. Stop by the store. You know, we usually have some pretty good discussions going on. So I guess that'll do it. This is Mike No of Campus Comics. You can reach us here at the store. We're at 816 East Main Street, Suite B, here in Carbondale, Illinois. Phone number 618-457-6011. You can follow us on Facebook, like us, message us there at Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at campus_comics. And I guess that's it for me.
All right. Scott Reed, birdcomics.com, BURG Comics. Also on Facebook and some other social media sites. I have an eBay store, stores.ebay.com/birdcomics. So if you can't find it at Campus Comics, shoot me a message and I'll try to help you out.
And Dan Brown at Detective 651 and here at the store on Saturdays.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.